Hi there, I'm Michael Bovee with ConsumerRecoveryNetwork.com, and I want to continue on with our debt settlement video series and talk today about some things that you probably will never hear from a debt settlement company. Consumer Recovery Network is involved in the debt settlement industry. We're an educational service provider, and we also provide professional negotiation services. But we do it differently, always have, and so because of that, I'm free to talk about some of the things that my industry fails at. One of those is giving you enough information to decide whether settlement's right or wrong for you. The reason for that is mainly profit. It's mainly because if you don't engage with their services, they're not getting paid. So there's an easier, softer, less informative approach that's taken to sell people on the idea that debt settlement's a good idea for them to avoid bankruptcy. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 things that you will not typically hear a debt settlement company say. Let's start with number 1. Some of your creditors refuse to work with my company. The fact is, some creditors won't deal directly with a debt settlement firm. What happens when creditors do this is you're required to let accounts go more delinquent than might have been necessary. So when a settlement company is not telling you that some creditors are not going to work with them, they actually can be impeding your ability to succeed or save the most with settlement or settle earlier so that there's less of an impact to your credit report. So it's a key thing to not share that information with you. Let's move on to number 2. A debt settlement company will probably not tell you that they have to wait for some accounts to charge off before trying to settle, even though that could cost you more. What do I mean by that? Well, if a debt settlement company tells you that they're going to have to wait longer than may have been necessary to settle an account, what they're not telling you is that because of, number 1, where some creditors are not going to work with them, it forces them to have to deal with a debt collector. Debt settlement is a very predictable process. It's why my company exists. It's why the entire industry exists. And by predictable, when it comes to number 2, your creditors charge off debt. They have to. It's actually part of an accounting principle that they have to abide by. When they do that, they do one of 3 things. They send it out to a debt collector, just a regular old debt collection agency that gets paid when they're able to get you to pay them. Or they'll sell that debt to a debt buyer, an investor, somebody who's risking their money thinking they're going to get more back when they collect from you. Or they're going to send it to an attorney, and that attorney's going to collect. Part of that collection might even involve suing you to get you to pay. When a debt settlement company fails to tell you that some of their creditors, your creditors, are not going to work with them, and they now have to wait for a debt collector to get the account before they can actually settle it for you, they may be costing you 10, 15% more, even higher, in the settlement arrangement. So it costs you money. For example, one of the major national credit card issuers currently working with some of the members that we train and educate on how to settle their own debt are seeing 25 and 30 cent on the dollar settlements. Those same accounts, once placed with a debt collection agency or sold off to a debt buyer or placed with an attorney, get settled by a lot of people and companies in my industry at 45%, 50%. Wow. I mean, this could actually mean double the amount of money that you could have settled the debt for. Let's move on to number 3. You can settle debts on your own and sometimes get a better deal than we can. Well, I just talked about that as part of number 2, but I want to hit this a little bit harder so that you actually grasp what I'm saying. When you work directly with your creditors, and they're not working with another company, or maybe they'll even work with a debt settlement company, oftentimes my industry gets pigeonholed. Why? Because of the way most of my industry operates. You pay money into a special purpose account, an escrow fund, every month. And you let that money accumulate over 7 months, and over 7 months you've got enough money now to go settle a debt. However, if you engage with your creditor before they charge off the account, then you're able to settle at that lower savings, often that isn't available to debt settlement companies until it gets out to collection land. And you can get terms. So where you were saving up for 7 months for the settlement company to settle it in full, you might be able to settle direct with one of your banks and get 90-day terms. So you've got a $10,000 account, let's say you settle it for $3,000, and they only need $1,000 in the first month, $1,000 in the second month, and $1,000 in the third month. So you were able to budget and save and settle that debt, save $7,000, and spend 90 days doing it. Whereas hiring a debt settlement company, you might have missed that opportunity. Let's move on to number 4. If we weren't charging you such high fees, you could actually be out of debt faster. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory, because if somebody's fees are high, it prevents you from settling the second debt, the third debt, the fourth debt, because most of the time, debt settlement works like this. You save up money. As soon as you have enough to settle one account, you settle it. The company grabs their fees. You save up money again, start over, another 6-7 months, adding money to an account every month. And as soon as there's enough to settle a debt, company settles the debt and collects their fees. Those fees actually prolong how long it takes you to finish settlement. So you're not going to hear them talk about that. You're not going to hear them talk about how you can do this on your own. You're not going to hear them talk about how some creditors are not even going to work with them, forcing accounts out to third parties that settle for higher rates, all because of fees. And it's the biggest bone that I have to pick with my industry. Since we created Consumer Recovery Network back in 2004, our fees have been 15% of savings, charged after the fact, when we do the settlements. Most of the settlements get done by our members themselves. Therefore, there is no 15% of savings. But my industry thrives on that fee structure. They're not telling you that this can happen so much more faster, because you're not going to sign up with them. They're not going to be able to stay in business. So fees matter. Just because CRN's fees are the lowest in the industry historically, doesn't mean that there aren't good companies out there doing similar things. There are a couple. Unfortunately, most companies charge either about 18 to 25% of your enrolled debt. So if you have $50,000 worth of debt, their fees, 20% of that, okay, paid over time. Obviously, that affects your ability to finish settlement or succeed with settlement. Or they charge a percent of savings like CRN does, only those fees are 30 to 40 and sometimes even 50% of savings. Believe me, fees matter in debt settlement. Let's move on to number 5. You're a good fit for our program, but bankruptcy may still be a better and less expensive option. So go ahead and speak with an attorney before committing to enrolling in our debt settlement program. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. You're a captive lead. That's what the industry refers to you as when you're on the phone with a debt settlement salesperson. So the last thing they want to do is recommend you connect with anybody else, let alone an attorney, where you might learn that bankruptcy is probably an option too. Because anybody that's looking at debt settlement is looking at it as an alternative to bankruptcy. And I get it, bankruptcy, you want to avoid it. It's understandable. But it might be the right thing to do. So hearing from somebody that you should go and talk with somebody else about your situation, and there might be a better answer that's consistent with you getting out of debt for the least amount of cost in the quickest way, and consistent with your goals for yourself, fresh start example through Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You're very rarely going to hear that. You need to research all your options, and you're hearing that from me, and I'm a debt settlement guy. So if you're at a place where you can no longer afford your monthly bills, it's a process of elimination, and it involves checking out 3 intervention options. 1, credit counseling. 2, debt settlement. And you should always talk with a bankruptcy attorney and find out what your qualifications are for Chapter 7 and weigh those 3 things. And then make a decision. Talk with reputable companies that have built a rapport, that you trust, that are going to share the details beyond these 5 things. But these 5 things are very important for you to consider, and that's why I'm talking about them today in our 5 things that you won't hear from a debt settlement company video. You can learn more about debt settlement on the ConsumerRecoveryNetwork.com website. Michael Bovee, signing off for now.